As we begin to close out a record year for the ETF industry, what bets are investors making for 2025? Let's talk with Brian Hartigan. He's the global head of ETFs at Invesco, fourth largest ETF provider in the country, and with Nate Geraci, he's from the ETF store, my old friend. Brian, the hot topic, I got to start with Bitcoin ETFs and what's going on with that. They've now passed $100 billion in assets under management. That's all 12 of them, including yours, BTCO, the Invesco Bitcoin ETF. I think you have nearly $1 billion in assets in that as well. So tell us about how momentum in Bitcoin ETFs, and what's happening as we close out the year.
Sure. Well, you've seen it just take off from early 2024 when multiple issuers launched, right? So really creating the packaging, the regulatory support, the liquidity of the ETF vehicle, pushing Bitcoin forward. But I think over the last few weeks, you've seen obviously the regulatory regime and at least the outlook for 2025 become very conducive for digital assets and certainly Bitcoin ETFs. So we think there's another chapter here that we're starting to enter, and we're looking forward to how investors can leverage option markets and other liquidity access to really manage their exposure.
Yeah, I want to talk about 2025, but Nate, something really extraordinary is happening with these Bitcoin ETF flows. These 12 Bitcoin ETFs now have, they're now the largest holders of Bitcoin here. I saw 1.1 million Bitcoins held in total, and I think that's relevant because that, we believe, passed Satoshi Nakamoto's 1.1 million Bitcoin holdings. And by the way, we don't know exactly who he is or how much he holds, but the estimates have been as high as 1.1 million. But Bitcoin ETFs now are the largest single, collectively the largest single owners of Bitcoin. Tell me a little bit about what you're thinking. Why has Bitcoin ETFs become a preferred way of holding Bitcoin?
Well, first of all, I don't know that this is exactly what Satoshi had in mind when he created Bitcoin, to have Bitcoin held via some of the largest asset managers in the world. But here we are. I want to go back. When you look at this category overall right now, last I checked, spot Bitcoin ETFs are nearing $110 billion in assets overall. And they've done this in about 11 months. For context, the physical gold ETF category, which has been around for over 20 years, that has about $125 billion in assets. So it's not inconceivable to think that spot Bitcoin ETFs will surpass gold ETFs sometime over the next several months, which is just astounding when you think about it. When I think about the demand here, I think everything lined up perfectly for these products coming to market, because remember, you had over 10 years of pent-up demand here, because the first Bitcoin ETF filing was all the way back in 2013. And this has been talked about ad nauseum over the past decade. So I think that created a lot of pent-up demand. As we talked about earlier, Bitcoin itself has obviously performed very well. It's up around 140% this year. That clearly helps. There's just been a ton of coverage in this space. That helps generate investor interest. So all of the ingredients have been there. It's really been a perfect recipe.